Hello everyone, and welcome back. What if the deadliest thing about being an assassin isn't the job? It's trying to quit. The Assassin follows the story of Julie, a legendary hitwoman who finally chooses to retire. But the past doesn't forgive, and it definitely doesn't forget. When her son Edward gets dragged into the crossfire, retirement becomes a death sentence. Now, bullets are flying, family secrets are unraveling, and every ally might be an enemy in disguise. So if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. It's a wild ride, but seriously will help you recall who lives, who dies, and who you can trust in this series when everyone seems to have a hidden weapon. Pay attention, because in the world of the assassin, missing one moment could be fatal. Now let's get to it. In Bulgaria, 1994, a masked person steps out of a bathroom, sets a timer on their watch, and moves through a guarded building. With cold precision, the masked person takes out anyone who comes in the way. Upon reaching a room, the masked person easily finishes the rest, save for the last one. The remaining man calmly talks, trying to buy his life with a bag of cash. But the masked person simply puts a bullet in him and walks out without even taking the offered money. Outside, the mask finally comes off, revealing a woman named Julie. She calls Damian to confirm that the job is done. They share a short banter, and the timer beeps. Hearing it, she ends the call. Julie pulls out a pregnancy test and curses. She's pregnant. 31 years later, on a beach in Greece, Julie wakes up to the yapping of a dog. Throwing an empty bottle away, she stomps off with her foldable chair. Passing by a group of kids, she gets smacked in the back of her head by a football. Easily identifying the culprit, she angrily kicks the ball into the sea. Elsewhere, Edward Green rushes through the airport. He barely makes it before the flight gates close. However, he starts doubting if he should really go, even hoping that his passport has expired. But it hasn't. Obviously rattled, he boards anyway. Back on the island, Julie heads out of her isolated home into the village. There, she jumps the line at the butcher's for some Wagyu beef she previously ordered. As she leaves, Luca, the butcher, reminds her of the wedding the next day. At the port, the estranged mother and son, Julie and Edward, exchange an awkward greeting. After resting a bit from the boat ride, they finally head to Julie's bike. When he clings to her, she reminds him he's not 10 anymore. Once home, she tries to cook him a steak, carefully saying how he mentioned wanting to try Wagyu before. However, Edward says he's now vegan. As Edward settles in, Julie receives an unexpected call from Damian. He wants her for a job, but she refuses, saying she's 10 years into her retirement. Edward overhears, and Julie awkwardly lies that it was her boyfriend. When Edward probes her about it, she changes the subject to food. She then heads out to get Edward some, leaving him alone. Elsewhere in a Libyan prison, a Dutchman named Jasper gets tossed into a cell. The inmates size him up, but another prisoner intervenes and brings him to a gang leader who wants help. Jasper thought it would be bad, but the other guy only wants his computer skills. Back in Greece, the mother and son share a meal. Julie mentions the wedding tomorrow, saying they should go. However, Edward feels she's avoiding talking to him, so he confronts Julie. He reveals that on his 30th birthday, he received a letter naming him as trustee of Anvil Assets. Thinking it might be from his father, Edward demands the truth since he already knows she lied about his father before. Julie urges him to let it go, saying Edward's father isn't someone he wants to know. But Edward thinks she's still lying. Damian calls again, and this time he's desperate, saying he'll double her fee. However, Julie still refuses. Damian makes his case and even promises to triple the pay. In the end, Julie finally gives in. After receiving the details, Julie makes up an excuse, saying she'll meet her boyfriend. She then gears up and heads out. Upon reaching a suitable location, Julie sets up her shot, but when she sees the target, her instincts tell her something feels wrong. She calls Damian and probes him. Based on their usual banter, she realizes the person she's talking to isn't him. The voice admits this, musing on what AI can do these days, and even changes to her voice. Refusing to be used, Julie doesn't do the job and goes digging for the real Damian by contacting an old colleague named Sean. However, nobody has seen Damian. Meanwhile, aboard the luxury yacht, the Target, Kayla spends time with her brother Ezra. They casually chat about their work roles and their father, Aaron Cross. Suddenly, Kayla asks Ezra what Shantanes is. Frowning, Ezra says there are some things they're not supposed to know. Kayla doesn't let it go, so Ezra admits he told Michael about it, but the other guy only reacted weirdly. He even swears that's all he knows. When Kayla leaves him, Ezra makes a call asking why it hasn't happened yet. After demanding to have it done, he ends the call. In the Libyan prison, Jasper hears about a nefarious plot and panics. He reports it to a guard, hoping to be at least transferred to a different prison. However, the guard is in the gang leader's pocket. So, instead of his desired result, Jasper gets snitched on. Realizing his mistake, he runs to his bed and takes out a phone. He makes a desperate, threatening call to Aaron Cross about Shantanes. But as he ends the call, he gets found out. Back in Greece, Julie and Edward attend a village wedding. Edward brings up Anvil Assets again, but the real news is that he's getting married. In the middle of the celebration, a gunman opens fire. Julie instantly realizes the shots are meant for her. She shields Edward, counts each shot, and uses the reload paws to push her son into hiding. She almost loses her life trying to get the car keys from a dead guest, but makes it. Taking the car, she drives to where the shooter is and ends him herself. Finishing the job, she calls Edward over. On a closer look, Julie recognizes that the shooter was one of her old colleagues, Pavel. When Edward arrives, he can't help but question her identity. In the town, more armed men arrive, finishing the villagers as they demand Julie's location. An old man tells them where she lives, but in the end, they also finish him. Everyone there is now dead, except for the butcher, Luca, who managed to hide in time. Meanwhile, Julie and Edward rush home. Julie grabs her gun beneath the couch and admits that she used to do bad things for money. Edward begs for answers about his father, but Julie refuses, reminding him that she is his mother. Even at death, she won't tell him what he thinks he needs to know. Soon, the armed men arrive, led by Alfonso. Julie uses a video to distract them and escapes with Edward on her bike. Arriving at the village, they find that everyone else is dead. They're chased through narrow streets, forced to flee on foot. With nowhere else to go, they jump into the water. As it happens, Luca is nearby and he follows them. Aboard Ezra's luxurious yacht, Edward knocks on Kayla's window, surprising her. Edward apologizes to her as Julie and Luca also board. Out of nowhere, Edward introduces Kayla to his mom as his fiancée. In a London graphic novel class, the lecturer discusses a complete scene. Suddenly, a woman walks in. The lecturer is initially confused, but she proves she's in the right place by taking out her tools. After instructing them to put everything down, the lecturer asks the woman what her scene will be about. The woman, Marie, says hers will be about Edward. Elsewhere, Kayla helps Edward, Julie, and Luca dry off after their chaotic escape. She doesn't believe them at first, but once Kayla realizes the shooting was real, she tells the captain to set course for Athens. While Kayla leaves to rummage through Ezra's closet for clothes, Edward wants to know how to explain to his fiancée. It is then that he bluntly tells Luca that his mom is a hitwoman. Julie pulls Edward aside and quietly tells the truth that she got a job from someone pretending to be her old boss, and Kayla was the target. Later, they finally meet Ezra, who plays as their tour guide. He flaunts his modded sauna, which can heat up to 180 degrees Celsius in 5 minutes. Nearby, Julie notices a photo of their father, Aaron Cross, the owner of Cross Global Mining. When she asks about Kayla's role, Kayla explains she has been working in the charity side of the business for 5 years already. Considering what they've been through, Kayla suggests they all eat and rest. Before following them, Julie spots a jet ski approaching. While the others head to the bar, Julie goes outside to investigate and finds her old colleague, Sean. Though the greeting is tense, the two lower their guns. He claims he's there as a friend and even brings up their old bet of whoever first gets a bounty on their head wins 10 pounds. Edward walks in on them and asks who the guy is. Sean introduces himself and claims he's Edward's father. Julie says he's not, so Sean apologizes and simply explains he's in the same business as his mom. Just when Edward ponders how he should explain Sean's arrival, Kayla appears. Julie smoothly covers up that Sean was already in the area when the shooting happened. During dinner, Sean's absence becomes noticeable when the alarm triggers. Julie gets up to check it. Noticing that something is amiss, she pulls her gun out as she looks for Sean. Her old colleague suddenly ambushes her, causing her to drop her weapon. Julie later does the same, turning their confrontation into a fistfight. Sean admits he took the contract because the pay just got tripled. Meanwhile, Edward keeps the others calm by spinning up a story of how his mom and Sean are together. He claims that Sean probably pulled the alarm to get his mom's attention, and now they're probably sorting things out. After a brutal fight involving a culinary torch and a cheese fork, Sean ends up dead. The others soon find them in such a gory state. In the Libyan prison, Jasper gets cornered. Instead of finishing him, the gang leader gives him a chance to redeem himself. They task him to take out their rival. Soon, Jasper makes his move but is stopped. The gang leader has figured out that Aaron Cross is trying to break Jasper out. Jasper is thrilled until the leader starts chopping off his fingers, demanding to know how Jasper got Aaron's attention. In the aftermath, Jasper wakes up with fewer fingers but alive. He finally spills what he knows, telling them about Shantaines. The moment he says that word, a guard shoots the gang leader and pulls Jasper out of the prison. Once outside, the guard escorting Jasper gets on the phone and discusses terms. Jasper realizes that once Aaron learns how much he knows, they'll be eliminated. He convinces the guard to take the money he already got and run before the extraction team arrives. Back at the yacht, Edward struggles to explain to Kayla that his mother is an assassin and was hired to kill her. Julie asks Kayla if she can think of anyone who wants her gone. Kayla insists there's no one, and she never even had a threat. Julie then decides they need to go to Tirana, Albania, to find Damian. Edward assumes Damian is her boyfriend, but Julie clarifies that Damian's her handler, telling him to keep up. While Kayla notifies the change of destination, Julie goes searching for Sean's phone. It is then that Julie overhears Ezra whispering on a call within the sauna. He clarifies on the call that he still wants her gone. but they should hold off because things are getting complicated. As he is about to leave the sauna, Julie locks him in and cranks up the heat to the max. She demands to know if Ezra sent the order when Kayla and Edward arrive. Ezra claims he was talking to the company lawyer Michael because he wants Kayla gone from the company. Kayla believes him enough to let him out. Later, Julie apologizes to Luca for having unintentionally caused the massacre of his friends and offers to help him get home. In another room, Edward and Kayla talk about Julie's headhunter cover story back when Edward was still young. As they talk, Kayla admits she received an email from Jasper about Chantaines. She paraphrases Jasper's words, saying it is something dark enough to destroy the company, and he needed someone brave to help expose it. Unable to sleep, Kayla goes to the gym while Edward unlocks his notes app, revealing that he has been digging into the Cross family. He then looks up Chantaines, but it only brings up a marmalade brand. In France, we finally meet Aaron Cross at his estate. When an employee from a security company updates him on the situation, Aaron slaps him and orders immediate results in locating Jasper de Voogd. Back on the yacht, Kayla confronts Ezra at breakfast. Ezra admits he's been trying to get her fired to impress their father by cutting charity spending. Calling Ezra weak and a coward, Kayla says he didn't have to fire her because she quit. Meanwhile, Edward helps Julie dispose of Sean's remains. She senses he's hiding something from Kayla and advises him to just say it. Just then, Kayla appears, informing them they'll reach Albania in an hour. Kayla will join them, insisting that they'll be safer with Julie. At that, Edward announces that it's the weirdest family road trip ever. In France, Michael discusses their annual local event. Aaron wants to cancel it, but Michael insists it keeps the community happy enough to overlook the company's shady dealings. Michael knows Aaron is stressed about Chantaines, but Aaron refuses to share what it actually is. Meanwhile, Julie, Edward, Kayla, and Luca arrive in Albania. Julie orders everyone to turn off their phones and not to use cards to avoid getting traced. She uses Sean's phone to locate Damian's address and bribes a delivery driver to smuggle them into town. Back in France, Ezra arrives home, eager to tell Aaron everything that happened on the yacht. Aaron barely listens, though he claims he cares, but ultimately he's letting security handle it. In Albania, they settle in the back of a moving truck. Luca insists that he'll stay with them since he wants to see Alfonso, the guy who made a mess in their quiet village. Later, Julie asks Edward and Kayla how they met. When she hears they met in a tennis club, Julie immediately spots the problem. When Luca and Kayla stand up to fix some fallen items, the mother and son talk privately. Edward admits he intentionally approached Kayla and begs Julie not to tell Kayla, insisting he's in love. Julie says she won't. Soon, they reach Damian's place in Tirana and find it ransacked. Julie tells them about Damian's old puke green laptop, which contains his entire contact list, including both clients and enemies. Kayla and Edward check with the downstairs neighbor, who silently hands them a newspaper claiming Damian was found dead in a river. Julie doesn't buy it, so they decide to check the morgue. Considering the heat, Luca heads off to find a car while the others break into the morgue. Kayla keeps watch while Edward checks the files, and Julie inspects the body. Julie even gives a close look at the private parts, which horrifies Edward, who briefly wonders if the man could be his father. Julie assures him he's not. Before they can finish, Kayla bursts in, warning them that someone is coming. They quickly flee and ride in the comically tiny car that Luca found. They end up in a police chase. Unexpectedly, Luca manages to hide the car behind a truck and lose them. However, as they travel, the tiny car breaks down. Julie and Luca head to a nearby garage, leaving Edward and Kayla alone. Edward finally confesses to Kayla how he intentionally approached her while investigating Anvil assets and its connection to CGM. He says he stopped digging once he fell for her, but Kayla storms off, furious. Soon, Julie and Luke return. While Luca fixes the car, Julie learns how Edward told Kayla the truth. As they talk, Edward suddenly pieces together that the strange tattoo on the morgue body is actually coordinates for a location. Damian left a clue. They follow this clue to a remote area. Meanwhile, in France, Marie, the woman from the London art class, arrives at Aaron's party after making a huge donation. Seeing her, Ezra swoops in to rescue her from a dull conversation with the mayor. Marie brushes him off until she learns he's Aaron's son. She then tells Ezra she's looking for Kayla's fiancé, Edward Green. Ezra and Marie quickly hit it off. She reveals she's Edward's aunt from his father's side and also drops the bomb that Edward's father is still alive. The two bond over their shared love of the manga, Naruto, which somehow leads them straight to bed. In the study, Aaron sits brooding. He's so distracted that he doesn't hear Michael enter. Aaron mutters about Kayla and Jasper and is relieved that Ezra is there to deal with the guests. However, Michael clarifies this, saying he hasn't seen Ezra for some time already. In a bedroom, Ezra is in bed with Marie, learning about the assassin business. Marie gives him a card, teaching how it can be done by calling the number and saying he wants an oil change. Later, Marie urges Ezra to call Kayla. Kayla answers long enough to say she's done with Edward and is heading back to France. When Kayla senses someone else is with Ezra, Kayla hangs up. After listening to the call, Marie leaves the party. Moments later, Ezra's assistant connects a call from Jasper, who warns that Chantaines is deadly enough that Aaron would eliminate anyone, even his own children. children just to protect the secret. Jasper demands money in exchange for information. Ezra suddenly hangs up and runs to Aaron, who immediately yells at him to get out of the study. Ezra listens, but he spots Aaron hiding a letter from a wall safe before leaving. In Albania, they soon locate Damian, who explains that operatives came looking for her. He fought them, and using the dead body, he faked his death, hoping she'd follow the clue. He doesn't know much, except that someone powerful wants her gone. When asked about his laptop, Damian claims it's gone. He then urges her to run from everything. Though Luca pushes to uncover the truth, Julie wants to flee. Hearing this, Luca decides to leave. That night, Julie sleeps when Damian quietly points a gun at her. However, she already anticipated his betrayal and gave her weapon to Edward. Behind him, Edward trembles as he aims at Damian. The screen goes black and a single gunshot rings out. Edward fires at Damian and misses. However, the shot distracts Damian long enough for Julie to overpower him and grab his weapon. She shoots him in the stomach, and Damian immediately switches to begging, insisting he can help them disappear. Julie wants to finish the job, but Edward pushes for leaving him behind since he's wounded and unarmed. So, just like that, they leave Damian and take his truck to Athens, to a safe house. Meanwhile, in France, Kayla arrives at the villa. Ezra tries to make small talk, but she brushes him off until he mentions Jasper calling about something involving Chantaines. Getting her attention, Ezra expresses his worry for their safety, and the only way to get answers is to figure out what Chantaines means. He mentions the yellow letter he saw Aaron hide in the safe. Though Ezra reassures Kayla that security is tight, he's wrong. One of the guards receives a call from Marie confirming the payment and that the job will be done. Back in Athens, Julie makes a questionable meat salad that Edward avoids. Julie's contact, Cyrus, arrives with a pizza box full of weapons. One of them is for Edward. She tries teaching him how to shoot, but he's terrible at it. She reminds him that there are people after her, and they will use anything to get to her, even Edward. However, Edward doesn't want anything to do with that and leaves on his own. In France, Kayla cleverly confronts Aaron about the safe and the letter. When he opens it, the yellow envelope is gone. He denies ever ordering harm to her and insists he would never hurt his own children. Elsewhere in the mansion, Ezra heads out, where the guard Marie paid is standing by. Before the guard can do anything, Ezra receives a call. Elsewhere in Tripoli, Jasper tries to reach a boat out of Libya. Someone asks around for him, so he hides and calls Ezra again, but is interrupted when a man looking for him walks nearby. Before dropping the call, he promises to call again at a later time. Back in Athens, Edward walks around looking for a phone. He manages to borrow one from a restaurant and calls Kayla, who refuses to speak to him, so Ezra takes the call instead. Ezra tells Edward about Chantaines and Jasper, and Edward suggests joining the call later so that he can ask the right questions. Ezra allows this, and they make plans for later. After the call, Edward sees his own face on a TV. He and Julie are officially suspects for the village massacre in Greece. He quickly runs out, but police swarm the streets. He ends up trapped on a rooftop and has no choice but to jump across the top of the building to escape. In France, Ezra enters his dad's office to discuss business, but as usual, Aaron dismisses him. Ezra then leaves. Right after Ezra's gone, the guard hired by Marie enters Aaron's office and attempts to shoot Aaron. Aaron hides under his desk and calls for help. Ezra arrives in time, overpowers the opponent, and finishes him off with a heavy strike. Aaron is shaken and impressed by his son. After things settle down, Aaron warns Ezra that Chantaines must stay buried or everything they've built could collapse. He also says Ezra is the next in line to take over CGM. Edward makes it back to the safe house and Julie is relieved. They're noticeably closer now, and he excitedly tells her about his rooftop escape. Julie finally asks for his opinion on what they should do next, and he tells her about his call with Ezra. They agree to wait for Jasper's call before planning next steps. Soon, Jasper calls Ezra again, who pulls Edward into the call. Jasper claims he knows all about Chantaines, and that he even blackmailed Aaron with it to get out of prison. Now, he's being hunted and needs help. Since he's closest to Athens, Ezra promises to send money so Jasper can meet Edward in person. After that, Ezra calls Marie to tell her about his progress. Still feeling high, Ezra then calls the number on the card Marie gave him. He gives Jasper's name and the location Jasper will be in the following morning. Elsewhere, Jasper boards a ship heading to Athens. In France, Kayla tends to Aaron after the attempt on his life and apologizes for doubting him. She spikes his drink, and when he passes out, she searches his office. She finally finds the yellow letter hidden in his pocket, and whatever's inside horrifies her. In Athens, Edward meets Jasper, but Jasper gets suspicious when Edward doesn't have the money. Things escalate until a female assassin appears. Julie reacts instantly, firing at her. Jasper and Edward run, and Julie chases the assassin, shouting for Edward. Edward and Jasper flee into an underground parking garage while the hitwoman closes in. She alerts her backup, and 4 armed men sweep the area looking for them. Julie arrives just in time and takes them all down, giving Edward and Jasper a chance to keep running. The female assassin follows, and just when it looks like she's about to finish them off, Marie suddenly plows her car into the woman. Marie claims Julie sent her and insists that Edward get in. Edward complies, but Jasper gets left behind. Elsewhere, Ezra anxiously waits for news from the assassin and calls her, only for Julie to answer. Her voice makes it clear that if anything happens to Edward, she's coming for whoever is on the line. Ezra panics and hangs up. Jasper can only offer scraps of information, so Julie drags him with her back to the safe house. In northern Greece, Luca drives through the countryside and stops at a village. He notices a news article about the island shootout, then goes straight to a butcher shop and buys a massive cleaver. Right after that, Luca drives back to Albania, where he last saw Julie. Luca confronts the severely wounded Damian. However, instead of helping Damian, Luca demands to know where the laptop is. Damian lies, but Luca forces the truth out of him with the butcher's knife. In France, Aaron finds Kayla devastated. The missing letter turns out to be their mother's last letter before her death. Whatever their parents did in the past was so unbearable that their mother couldn't live with the guilt. Aaron pleads with Kayla to keep the truth buried. After some time, Kayla eventually returns the letter to Aaron. It is then that Aaron admits his wife's guilt and explains that the word Chantaines was the name of her French poodle. After explaining how their mom got obsessed with the marmalade Chantaines and used its name for her dog, Aaron asks Kayla not to expose anything. Later, Kayla gives Ezra their mother's letter. She reminds him to talk to her when he's ready. On the road, Marie claims Julie sent her and that she's Edward's aunt. She even says she knows Edward's father, but her story shifts just enough to make Edward uneasy. They soon run into a police checkpoint. Marie tells Edward to hide in the trunk. She sweet-talks her way through until the officer insists on checking the trunk, forcing her to finish him. Marie helps Edward out of the trunk, and they continue toward what she claims is a safe house. Edward asks about his father again, and Marie says his name is Roy. However, as they fill up the car with gas, Edward finds Marie's sketchbook. Seeing his face on it, they get into a heated discussion. Marie slips up, calling Edward's father Ray instead of Roy. The slip makes Edward bolt from the car, but he doesn't reach that far before Marie finds her and injects him with something that makes him lose consciousness. Returning to Julie and Jasper, Jasper admits he really knows nothing of Chantaine, and he only encountered the word because he was the head IT for CGM. Hearing this, Julie is about to end Jasper when Luca suddenly contacts her about Damian's laptop. They plan to meet up, but Luca makes her promise to behave. Soon, Julie meets up with Luca in his mother's house, bringing Jasper with her. There, they put Jasper in charge of decrypting the laptop. Jasper tries to demand payment, but Julie reminds him that they're to keeping him alive. In France, Ezra confronts their father about the letter, saying he'll keep it all wrapped up. He then reveals everything he has done so far, but his father only gets more disappointed. Aaron scolds Ezra and tells him to get out. Ezra leaves and decides to admit to Kayla what he did, but before he can, they hear someone screaming. The two quickly rush towards the voice and find their father unconscious with pills on the table. At the hospital, Kayla says this was her fault for pushing their father too hard. It is then that Ezra confesses to ordering a hit on Jasper with the help of Edward's aunt, Marie. After Ezra reveals what happened, Kayla storms away, furious that Ezra may have put Edward in danger. Kayla quickly calls Julie and tells her about Edward's aunt. Stunned, Julie says Edward doesn't have an aunt. Before they can talk more, she and Luca hear a commotion in the house. Jasper finally made progress on the laptop, and he threatens to delete everything unless someone pays him. However, Luca's mother knocks him out with a pan. As Julie digs through the files, Luca decides to free Jasper and tells him of a hideout in Albania. Meanwhile, Julie is back on a call with Kayla, who explains her family history of how her parents made money after making a deal with an arms dealer. When the other guy got greedy, they put a hit on him, giving it the codename Chantaines, the same name as her mom's French poodle. Julie soon traces a 1994 job she did in Spain called French Poodle. Julie shares how she did the job, but realized too late that the target wasn't alone. There were others in the house that night. Elsewhere, Marie arrives near a private jet and meets Alfonso, the same guy who erased Luca's people. Just then, Marie sends Julie a picture of an unconscious Edward, saying she's taking him home. Seeing this, Luca asks what that means, and Julie says, Spain. She suspects Marie isn't Edward's aunt. Marie might actually be Edward's mother. Soon, Julie and Luca arrive in Spain. Thanks to Cyrus, one of Julie's old contacts, and Kayla's help, they secured the needed weapons and gear. Elsewhere, Edward wakes up disoriented as Marie welcomes him home. There, Marie explains that Edward lived his entire life with liars. 29 years ago, Kayla's family ordered the death of Edward's father, Jean-Luc, and this was done by the person whom Edward now calls Mom, Julie. Watching nearby, Julie and Luca set up outside the property. As they wait for nighttime, Julie quietly admits that her missions sometimes get to her. However, she learned to survive by treating every target as just a job. As night arrives, Julie begins her infiltration, while Luca stays back, providing support. Unknown to Julie, Luca has already contacted Kayla, disclosing their location. In France, Kayla learns that Edward's life is at risk, so she reluctantly makes a deal with Ezra, who becomes CGM's new head after what happened to their father. Ezra promises to throw every company resource into finding and saving Edward, as long as Kayla keeps their parents' darkest secret buried. Back in Spain, Julie moves through the rooms, eventually finding Marie's art studio filled with storyboards of their life. Marie's obsession is painfully clear. Julie quietly plants an explosive in the room and continues moving. Returning to Edward and Marie, Marie provides full detail of her romantic relationship with Jean-Luc. Hearing this and seeing the proof around him, Edward believes that Marie is his mother. Marie tells him that his real name is Florent and he's French. She then explains that Anvil Assets was set up for him from birth. When a commotion outside occurs, Edward takes advantage of it to strike Marie and flee, believing that everything Marie said is a self-serving monologue on her part. Unexpectedly, Edward and Julie collide in a corridor. Julie says they can talk about what he learned later, but for now, they must move. Edward refuses, confronting her for what she did. Giving in, Julie reveals she got assigned to Chantain and killed Edward's father. At the appearance of another person, she quickly shoots. However, she wasn't able to check the pulse because she heard baby Edward crying. Unable to leave him, she took him. She also reveals how she was once pregnant but miscarried. Meeting Edward made her believe she must protect him. However, her guilt led her to become a recluse, even to him. Julie apologizes and begs Edward to trust her so she can get him out of there. Though emotionally hurt, Edward listens. Marie suddenly reveals that she's watching them from the surveillance. Edward believes Marie won't hurt him since he's her son, but Marie reveals that that isn't the case. The truth is, they got a surrogate for him, and that Marie only tolerated Edward's existence because of her husband. Julie shoots the surveillance, and they flee. However, Edward weakens. To escape, Julie creates a distraction by destroying Marie's studio with explosives. She reverses the situation, making Marie comply with having the guards gone. However, Edward's weakness escalates, and Marie reveals she poisoned him earlier. Though weaponless, Marie urges the guards to leave and claims to have the antidote. She tells Edward he can save himself if he kills Julie, but instead of taking the deal, Edward shoots Marie. On the other side of the property, Luca moves with Kayla's team after their arrival. He confronts Alfonso, the person who took his friends' lives. Rage hits him hard, but he freezes, unable to bring himself to finish the man. Kayla's security team, now on site thanks to her deal with Ezra, steps in and takes control. Kayla arrives as Edward collapses from the poison. She immediately calls for a helicopter to rush him to a hospital. Julie, weighed down by guilt, steps away and refuses to go with them. She believes she's caused enough damage. Back in France, Aaron Cross dies. Michael subtly suggests Ezra might have had something to do with it, but Ezra brushes it off. Later, Ezra burns their mother's last letter. The story jumps 3 months forward and Edward has recovered. In a boat with Kayla, the couple still intends to get married. Surprisingly, Julie is with them. Despite everything, the tension between Edward and Julie has softened. Julie even started dating Luca, and now Edward, Julie, and Kayla are journeying to meet Edward's biological mother. And that's a wrap on The Assassin, a world where trust is deadly and every secret could be a trap. Julie's journey proves that even the most skilled can't escape their past, and neither can her son, Edward. So what part shocked you the most? The fact that Edward isn't Julie's biological son, or the possibility that Ezra might have had a hand in his father's death? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the notifications so you don't miss the next video. And who knows, maybe there's a season 2 waiting in the shadows. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.